Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Mariana. I'm from group 4, 6th A class. Okay, on this video, I'm going to talk about the use of literature in the language classroom, method and aims. Literature in language classes provide enough space for students to comment, justify, and reflect alone. By using literary text, the language class can change, come alive, and motivate. For the discussion, this time is for provide you with appropriate information about the use of literary text in language learning and their benefit. Furthermore, there are presented different aspects of the literary method based on theory and organized activity according to group. Diverse interests about how literary text can be used with language learners and how to use literature in class that can help students improve English skill and can be achieved through certain activity based on literary text. And for this time, the discussion will focus more on what is literature, various value of teaching literature in the classroom, how literature helps students develop basic skill, speaking, writing, and reading. Okay, so what is literature? Some definition given by teachers from all over Indonesian world. Literature is spelling and talks in black and white. Literature is word of fantasy, horror, feeling, vision put into word. Here also other quotation which define literature. Literature could be said to be a sort of discipline technique for arousing certain emotion. Great literature is simple language charged with meaning to the utmost possible degree. According to Buzz, literature is the record of experience interpreted by personality that behind every book which the rest has preserved is a human being's eager effort to give life meaning, to create beauty, to express emotion and idea, to make men aware from themselves and the life they lead. The above extract present an integrated meaning of the value and the importance of literature. The fact is that literature and language are closely related. Literature is shaped by language, and that is one of the most repeated use of language. Language and linguistic analysis can also be used to access literature from the student point of view. Griffith and Carter has emphasized the role of literature as an language because literature has become a widely used teaching tools in various fields of student language teaching method. However, here's the perspective provide more relevance to literary text as a work art. First of all, let's discuss the changing role of literature and the tradition of teaching a second language. It ends with a take into account the current situation in a communicative approach in the method of grammatical translation. Literature is central component. The focus of teaching method is on learning the rule, grammar, and lexical item as they appear in the text. After this method is not used, literary texts are also forgotten literary for second language teachers. For structured approach to language teaching, literature is discredited as tool because it represents an old tradition. Literature as one of the most valuable language teaching resources available have been divide reading literature, no top is communicative activity, and literary text, which today can there is such a thing authentic example of language use. Many authors, including the Brumfield and Carter and Lazard, rejected the idea existence of a certain literary language and claimed that the language used is literary text is a common language with a high concentration of linguistic features like metaphors, similarities, lexis, unusual syntactic pattern, and etc. Okay, next criteria for using literature. There are three main criteria that justify the use of literature as a second language teaching. First, linguistic criteria maintain that literature should be used in language teaching because it provides learners with example of original and authentic language, and also with the original language sample of various style, text, type, and register. The second criterion is methodological and refers to the fact that a literary text has multiple interpretations. This leads to for real and motivate interaction with text, with other students, and with teachers. And last, the motivation criteria are very good relevance because literary texts show true feeling, author, and this generate a strong motivation in students. Why use literature? The purpose of using literature in a language classroom is to make the class interactive, and it can be stated that an interactive class can obviously improve communicative competence of the learners and keep a lasting impact on their mind. Three main reasons for teaching of literature have been consistently advanced. Each embraces a particular set of learning objectives for the student. The models may be summarized as follows. First, the cultural model. Teachers who work in such an orientation emphasize literary value in summarizing the accumulation of wisdom, the best that has been taught and felt in a culture. And the second, the language model. One of the main reasons for teacher orientation toward the language model for teaching literature is to provide students with knowledge with some of the more subtle and varied meaning, creative use of language. And the third, the personal growth model. Teachers are very interested in the personal growth model of the student. Teachers' main goal is to help students achieve an engagement with the reading of literary texts. There are several advantages to using short story in a story ESL classroom. The most open in the practicality lane, which allows students to conclude assignment reading at the setting, or depending on the teacher approach, it can be fully read in the class or two lessons. The inclusion of short fiction in the ESL or EFL curriculum offers the following educational benefits. For the first, make the student reading text easier due to being simple and short when compared with the other literary genre. Enlarges the advanced level readers' world view about different culture and different group of people. And the second, provide more creative, challenging texts that require personal exploration, supported with prior knowledge for advanced level readers. And the third, motivate learners to read due to being authentic material, and then offers a word of wonder and a world of mystery. Next, give students the chance to use their creativity, and then promote critical thinking skill, and then facilitate teaching foreign culture.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Said Muhammad Diaul Haq from 6E class. Now I will continue the presentation from group 4. The presentation from Mariana. Next, the 3 basic skills. According to the above information, we understand that literary text can be very useful in order to motivate students to develop 3 basic language skills. First, reading, writing, and speaking. Before talking literary text, we should, as EFL teacher, prepare activities that will help students advance their level in these 3 basic skills. Here, we will not going to expand the theme of the basic skill due to the fact that through the activities the author prepared and present in the following page, it will be obvious how literature helps students to develop their skill. And then factors to consider when selecting literary text. The text which was selected here to work with is Louisa May Alcott. The title is Little Woman. It has been used in simplified version of it because the author had in mind a group of Greek students in an intermediate level who generally have the following characteristics. Age of students 11 to 13 years old, gender mix, educational life late years in primary school up to first or second year of high school. Literary background sufficient. This text has been chosen since the writer believed that it can broaden students' minds, meaning that they will become familiar with the culture and the values of the specific time period described in the book. They will find out historical event, and they will face the woman's position and the dress code of that time, the acceptable behavior, and generally they will meet a different society and learn how people lived back then. The language is the appropriate one for their level, and as a result, meta language is not required. And then types of activities used. There are many ways to follow when preparing activities for short stories. One of them is to classify them into 3 basic groups. First, pre-reading activities, and the second, while reading activities, and the third, post-reading activities. The above classification is recommended by Lazar, but also from various other academics such as Tomlinson. In my opinion, the headings help a lot when organizing ideas and talk related to the task and exercise which will be used with the literary text. And then while reading activities, the activities help students to understanding the plot and then to understand the characters. And the next post-reading activities. The post-reading activities help students first to make interpretations of the text, and then to understand the narrative point of view, and then practice the language skills, and the next helping learners to express their personal viewpoints and experience. And the next conclusion. Having devised a number of exercises based on a simplified version of Alcott's novel, we come up with the conclusion that the greater number of learners will take advantage from the use of the suitable literary text in the classroom. Finally, we should say that the teachers can create similar activities, but always according to the needs of the group they teach. Okay, everyone, maybe only it for me. Thank you for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.